Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:07. It's O'Connor and Company. As we did not get a resolution on the government shutdown that the Democrats are demanding on the American people. So we've got a little bit more coverage of that today. You know, and Democrats, when they're not texting fantasies about killing their political opponents or when they're not spying on their political opponents, they're voting to shut down the government to try to hurt their political opponents. You end up suffering. That's a theme. At 6:35, we're going to speak with the Republican nominee for lieutenant governor, John Reed. At 7:05, Jonathan Schanzer, executive director of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, on this, the anniversary, second year of the October 7th terrorist attacks. At 7:35, the Attorney General of Virginia, Jason Miyares. 8:05, we'll speak with Eric Trump, first son. He's got a brand new book out. And then at 8:35, Dinesh D'Souza, he's got a film out. It's breaking today, and it's about a lot of things. I've seen it. It's about the October 7th attacks. It's also about biblical historical basis for Israel's right to exist, and their enemies go all the way back to the Old Testament as well. Same people, same story. We'll get to Dinesh on that coming up later in the program. It's Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock, who is absolutely obsessed with Paris Fashion Week. I know. Are you going to be getting any of those outfits?
Yeah, I'm coming to you from Paris, actually, right, Larry?
Are you?
Yeah, sure. Yes. No, I'm not.
You sound great.
I will not be getting these. It really is the theater of the grotesque over there in Paris. I mean, the uglier, the more bizarre looking you are, the more successful you are. It's really gross.
What's with all the dudes wearing dresses and lingerie and stuff? I mean, and by the way, they're not even they're not good looking male models. They're like all like tubby truck driver kind of dudes. No offense to tubby truck, not my type. But I would think if I were a woman going to Fashion Week, I would, or even a gay man, because who else goes to Fashion Week in Paris? Women and gay men. I would want, at least an attractive man walking around half naked. Is this the Brigitte Macron effect?
I don't know, but it's not just sort of men cosplaying as women. When I say the theater of the grotesque, I mean, they have models with injuries to their faces. They look swollen and their eyes are bugged out. I mean, it's really, as Heather, our executive producer, said, they're just running out of ideas. So they're, just offering people with melted faces spots on the runway. So
it's often been said that some of these fashion designers really hate women. There's a lot of misogyny that's sort of dripping through their designs.
Well, and if you watch any documentaries about the early days of Dior, Chanel, I mean, it really was making women beautiful and a celebration of beauty, and the tailoring itself was like art. And now it's, some of the dresses you can if you blur your eyes a little, it kind of looks nice. But it really is, I mean, some of these latest spectacles, and I know it's all theater and it's all for show, but the clothes themselves do not look nice. It looks like an afterthought, really. Just put a bizarre-looking model in sort of an average-looking piece of clothing, and that's the thing.
Well, so those handful of ladies who are listening at 5 a.m., there you go. There's your Fashion Week update. And
there you go.
Gentlemen, you're welcome. Now you can have something to talk to the missus about when you come home. You can say, "Oh, I was taking a look at Paris Fashion Week. They've just run out of ideas. Where's the mac and cheese?" There, that's the conversation tonight at 5 p.m. I am. Let's move on to Jay Jones. He's a monster.
Yes.
Jay Jones wants to
perfect segue.
Wants to be the Attorney General of Virginia, and the fallout continues. We got two new little tidbits of a scandal here about Jay Jones. The first one is my favorite. Remember how he was caught doing 116 miles an hour?
Yeah.
He was arrested. This guy who wants to be the top law enforcement official of Virginia. And by the way, the defenders of this part of the Jay Jones scandal say, "Oh, well, that was many years ago." It was 3 years ago. It was right when he was sending these atrocious texts, by the way. Yeah. It was around the same time when he was saying that he wanted, 2 bullets in the head of his political opponents. He gets caught doing 116 miles an hour on Virginia highways and byways. And then you remember he was sentenced to 1,000 years community service, 500 of which he spent. In fact, as far as we know, he only did 500 hours.
Yeah.
And it was at his political action committee because that serves the community.
Ugh.
Well, now here's the latest on that. The prosecutor involved in that case says, well, no, he didn't have the right to do his community service at a political action committee. That's not community service. So the prosecutor is now confirming that was never allowed. So in other words, he hasn't served anything. We didn't really take to heart the 500 hours community service to his political action committee. We just thought it was a corrupt judge and a corrupt DA who allowed that to happen. But no, that was never allowed to happen. So he basically has skirted any sentence or any punishment for doing 168. You try that, pal. Hey, Joe and Jane, Virginia, you try reckless driving 116 miles an hour in a 55 zone, and then just not serving any sentence after you've been prosecuted or after you plead guilty. Jay Jones got away with it, and he wants to be your attorney general.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
I mean, it really is. I mean, there seem to be more and more scandals. Yesterday, I read that a new scandal has come out that he said that if more cops got killed, they wouldn't shoot so many people. Okay, so, this is, again, the man who wants to be the top law enforcement official in the state of Virginia, but also, I don't know, those cops' bosses. He wants to be their boss, and he's joking around about them getting killed so they won't kill so many people. It's vile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think he was joking. This was during the George Floyd Black Lives Matter hysteria, and I truly believe that he genuinely thought, well, these cops are protected. If some of them started getting killed, maybe they'd start stop abusing and racially
you're right.
hammering people.
Yep.
And by the way, one positive development yesterday in the Jay Jones story, there's still no prominent Democrat elected officials or current or former who have called on him to drop out of the race or even withdrawn their endorsement, including Mark Warner. We'll play that audio for you. But the Fraternal Order of Police of Virginia, after that story hit yesterday, have now called on him to drop out of the race.
Good.
So there's that. Also, the Brady, Jim Brady anti-handgun coalition group. They're in favor of gun control. Remember?
Yeah.
I forget what their official name is. The Brady. It's named after former press secretary Jim Brady, who was shot during the Reagan assassination attempt. They have called on him to drop out of the race, or they've withdrawn their endorsement of him because if your main reason for being as a political action group is to oppose the use of handguns, and you've endorsed a guy who's talking about putting bullets in people's heads, that's probably not a good look. But they're the only ones. You mentioned it yesterday. Where the Moms Against anti-gun
Moms
groups.
Every town, and Moms Demand. Where's Shannon Watts? Yeah. Right, coming out. He's glorifying gun violence. Where are these groups?
Well, coming up in a sec, a little bit more on this. A new GOP ad campaign, a new Jason Miyares ad, and you know what they say if you're a Democrat: when you lose Morning Joe, you know you're in trouble. And Jay Jones lost Morning Joe. We'll tell you what Scarborough had to say and the little panel of left-wing meanies there.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Your next $1,000 could be one text away. It's $5K a day on WMAL.
All right, so the chattering memes around the roundtable at Morning Joe yesterday, not so happy with Jay Jones. By the way, Screaming Mimi was from World War II. It was a nickname given by the American soldiers to a German Nebelwerfer rocket artillery system that made an eerie whistling or screaming sound as the rockets were launched. They called them Screaming Mimis. So there you go. There's the memes.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Which brings us to Morning Joe. Here's how Mika and Joe introduced the topic yesterday. And my favorite is when Joe chimes in with his opinion. Cut one.
Coming up, an attorney general candidate in Virginia is apologizing for his texts about a state lawmaker. We'll go through what the messages said.
Probably be forced to withdraw from the race, and probably is doing a lot there.
All right, Morning Joe will be right back.
Did you hear Mika? Okay.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, Joe. Yeah, you know what? The teleprompter says Mika on it, okay? It says,
Right.
It says my
Jump the
tease
gun.
to the next segment.
Right.
Yeah, that can't. That's not going to last long, is it? Is it already past its expiration date? Those two.
Oh, I thought we were still talking about Jay Jones, who I feel like is
I'm
past
on
his expiration date.
Honest, well, sure he has. Now,
Joe
but
and
Joe
Mika,
and Joe and Mika's
don't make me go down that road, for gosh sakes.
All right. So here's how the conversation ensued there with Heidelman. Is Heidelman still there? Yeah, Heidelman from cut 2 here. Heidelman, Politico guy.
Text messages, horrible. I didn't want to read them out loud. I'm wondering how the text messages...
Pause it there. They don't read them out loud. They do like one or two, but they don't actually give the full extent. They don't give the context like we did yesterday, that he was doing this after seeing a Republican eulogize a Democrat lawmaker, which is actually a wonderful, noble thing, and that's what drove him into a rage. They went out of their way not to let their viewers know exactly how bad it was.
Yeah, and she frames it like, it's so gross. I don't want to say. No, the reason you don't want to say it is you don't want to say what, Larry, this is the norm among Democrats. Right. These they always talk about,
I'd love to see what Joe and Mika's text messages look like with their pals.
I can't remember the woman's name on one of the Sunday shows who said, "Well, it was a private conversation," right?
Near Tandem.
Near Tandem. Yeah, that's right. It's a private conversation. So, is that supposed to excuse it? But what that conveys is this idea of that's a lot of the private conversations among Democrats, right? Yeah. This idea of God, I just wish it's like when, the attempt on Trump's life. You get them sort of when they're not thinking, and they'll say things like, I wish he'd been a better shot, or I wish he'd had better aim. They say this stuff all the time.
They do. All right, let's go back to the conversation at Morning Joe yesterday.
Wondering how the text messages
deeply disturbing messages that have been swiftly condemned across the political aisle. The Republicans have tried to tie this to Congresswoman Spanberger, the gubernatorial candidate. She did very quickly denounce them. But it's unclear whether this attorney general candidate will stay in the race. I think there's a growing sense that he probably should not. We heard President Trump last night. But even some Democratic leaders, John Hyman, have started to say, look, this is inappropriate. You can't, and especially at a time right now with such concern about violent rhetoric and political violence.
And who says that?
Yeah, that this is just way beyond the line.
I would say, not to be too much on the high horse. It's wildly inappropriate under any circumstances. Today, tomorrow, 10 years ago, 6 months ago. I think the pressure is going to be on Spanberger and for the whole of the party to ask this candidate to just quit the race, because just both, it's the right thing, and also the political splashback. You don't want to mess with this right now.
Who says that?
Yeah, who says that? Mika's going overboard with the feigned horror of the language here.
Who says that? Your party. What?
Let's show me the text messages that you guys have with Al Sharpton as you're preparing for a segment. But that's not good for Jay Jones. That's not good for Democrats. I mean, say what you will about Joe and Mika. It is influential in those circles. So that's something. Also, Nikki Haley, of all people, came out on the X platform and said, Abigail Spanberger owns this. At the end of the day, the governor is responsible for putting politics aside and protecting the people of their state. If she can't call on Jay Jones to drop out now, imagine what she will let slide if she wins in November. Nikki Haley is the exact kind of Republican that Abigail Spanberger needs to get those suburban moms who that's all she cares about. And that's
one of those Republicans in this area, Barbara Comstock, okay? Used to be a Republican, now.
Yeah, where's she?
Yeah, where's she? Miss Civility. Barbara Comstock used to be a Republican, now is a, frothing at the mouth January 6th, liberal at this point. Always talking about how the Republican Party left her because it's filled with these people who aren't civilized and
right. But has she
polite.
said anything about this?
No, I checked her Twitter feed, nothing. So I don't know where Miss Civilized is, but Yeah, but these are the kind of, former Republican women who are so put off by President Trump, who are going to vote for Spanberger.
Yeah.
And, I don't really think what Jay Jones has said is exactly principled and civilized. So maybe you should we
need to support Democrats because they're not meanies like Trump, and this guy's wanting to put bullets in people's heads. All right. Listen, this story ain't going away. We've also got a new ad from Jason Miyares. We'll play that for you as the morning develops. Also, John Reed at 6:35 and the aforementioned Jason Miyares at 7:35. Right now it's 5:23.
Well, it turns out Jack Smith wasn't just trying to put Trump in jail for the rest of his life. He was spying on senators. We've got the latest on this story. Keep it here. It's 5:30.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
5:37. Good morning on this Tuesday, the 7th day of October, as we acknowledge the 2-year anniversary of the horrific events of this dreaded day in Israel. We've got much discussion about that and also political discussions for the election coming up 4 weeks from today, including Loudoun County School Board, by the way. 5 seats in the Loudoun County School Board up for election this November. Coming up at 6:35, John Reed, Lieutenant Governor nominee. 7:05, Jonathan Schanzer on October 7th. 7:35, Virginia Attorney General Jason Miyares. 8:05, first son Eric Trump. And at 8:35, Dinesh D'Souza. It's Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning.
Jack Smith was named a special prosecutor to investigate Donald Trump on the Mar-a-Lago documents case and on the January 6th case. I was told it was an insurrection. Of course, Donald Trump, nor any of the 1,000-plus people who were arrested on January 6th were ever charged with insurrection, but it's an insurrection. Jack Smith spent $50 million minimum, probably much more, on his investigation before it was basically neutered and thrown out by the Supreme Court because, as everyone knew at the time, you couldn't really prosecute Donald Trump for actions that he took as he was president. It didn't matter. The whole purpose of the investigation was to hurt Donald Trump politically. It had nothing to do with the law. But now we're learning that not only was the prosecution itself somewhat outside the boundaries of the Constitution, but the way Jack Smith conducted his investigation seems to be, at the very least, illegal, if not contrary to basic law enforcement protocols at the federal level. He was spying on senators and congressmen. It seems to be a Fourth Amendment problem here. You know, when Richard Nixon did this, the government ground to a halt. When J. Edgar Hoover did this, major reforms were put in place to keep it from ever happening again. And yet here it is, happening again. This was released by Chuck Grassley's Senate Judiciary Committee yesterday, along with a document that was revealed by FBI Director Kash Patel. This is the Fox write-up. Former Special Counsel Jack Smith was tracking the private communications and phone calls nearly a dozen Republican senators as part of his investigation into the January 6th Capitol riots. What? How much more? Seriously, there are people obsessed with January 6th in this town. And I recognize it was a lousy day. So was the entire first week of June with the George Floyd riots and the burning of everything outside Lafayette Square in front of the White House. We've had some bad days. But there are people in this town, Julie, the second you mention anything, like the assassination of Charlie Kirk or the assassination attempt on Donald Trump's life, they'll immediately, within 30 seconds, but January 6th. January 6th.
It's a fetish. It's because they've fetishized it. It's
gross. And so Jack Smith and Merrick Garland and Joe Biden were so obsessed with January 6th, or what I think the reality is, I don't think they give a crap about January 6th. But they know that it's a political weapon they can use. It's a cudgel.
Yes.
They can use it. It's a conversation stopper. Or at least it had been. It used to be. They thought that it was like this great trump card that they could play. So they went all in on it. to the extent that they looked the other way or purposely endorsed and supported Jack Smith spying on 8 senators. Lindsey Graham, because Lindsey Graham was a ringleader of the
what?
Of January 6th. Lindsey Graham, Marsha Blackburn, Ron Johnson, Josh Hawley, Cynthia Lummis of Wyoming, Bill Hagerty of Tennessee, Dan Sullivan of Alaska, Tommy Tuberville, and Congressman Mike Kelly of Pennsylvania. This is from a document discovered by Kash Patel. It's titled Caste Assistance, dated September 27th, 2023. Right around the time when Republicans were having debates in the nomination process. This is disgusting.
Yeah, it is. And again, we are regularly called the threat to democracy. Republicans are regularly called the threat to democracy. And you've got this kind of spying going on. This is terrifying. And Jack Smith should go to jail for this.
What court? I'm trying to figure out what court would approve a wiretapping. What's the word I'm looking for?
Scheme.
Warrant to do this. I mean, who this isn't a FISA thing because it's not a foreign security matter. It's absolutely outrageous, and I don't think the FBI can just unilaterally do this to any citizen, let alone the senators, without having a court sign off on it.
There was such derangement after January 6th that I think they suspended all norms and all sort of legal norms to pursue this. They were looking obviously for this grand conspiracy. They were looking for something beyond Trump, or sort of a network that Trump had set up where this was planned and known about, and I think they didn't care about the law and norms.
Can I just, and here's what we got yesterday on this. We had Chuck Grassley tweet something and said, we're going to have a lot of discussion here. Those responsible must be held fully accountable. What does that mean? Fully accountable, because there were no calls for prosecution. There were no calls for arrest. There was no calls for special prosecutor to investigate the special prosecutor. And then they staged like a impromptu press conference in what looks like a Marriott, hotel meeting room.
Yeah.
With a gray wall behind them and a single light bulb illuminating them. They weren't, in front of the Capitol. They weren't in front of the Justice Department. They each traded their moment on the microphone expressing their outrage, and that's it.
And that's probably what we'll get, Larry. That's probably it, which is so frustrating, right? There never seems to be any justice when it comes to these things. Jack Smith will walk away, and there'll be no justice. I mean, I don't mean to be negative. I'm not usually in New York about this stuff.
I hear you.
I feel like it's the same thing. It's like, we got to get to the bottom of this, and then it just kind of disappears into the ether.
We're going to have hearings like nobody's ever seen before. That'll show them. It's 5:44.
Never miss an episode of The Derek Hunter Show. If you do, we just might talk about you. 3 o'clock on WMAL.
This doesn't surprise me, but it should shock every American of what the Biden administration has done. By the way, this is the first time I was targeted by the FBI. Under the Obama administration, the same thing happened to both Senator Grassley and I. As part of the Foreign Influence Task Force, we were giving a briefing to try and convince us that the Hunter Biden laptop was no big deal. Basically, trying to throw us off the track. So this is major corruption.
Message there. That's Senator Ron Johnson. I'm not surprised, but it should shock every American. It's not necessarily a consistent message. Tommy Tuberville of Alabama was on with Larry Kudlow.
Well, they just briefed us, Larry. Dan Bongino came over, deputy of the FBI. We had all of us in the room. This is the first we've heard of it. Obviously, I figured we would be somehow breached by China or North Korea, but not by your own government.
That's a good line. I like that one,
is.
Senator Tuberville. Throw that out there a few more times. Tuberville, who was one of the ones who was targeted here. Leader John Thune, he's the leader of the Republicans in the Senate. He put out a statement on social media. Are you ready? I have grave concerns about a new report showing that the Biden-era FBI spied on Republican senators, and I fully support Senate committees getting to the bottom of this outrageous abuse of power and weaponization of the government. That's a game changer.
That's great. That's about as exciting as Thune gets. Okay.
He has grave concerns.
Yes, and committees are going to get involved. That's great.
And where's everyone screaming about the separation of powers and authoritarianism and no more kings? And where are all these people?
Yes, where are they, Larry? No kings, remember?
Bill Haggerty, Senator Bill Haggerty, cut 4 here. He was similarly outraged with grave concerns.
This is an extraordinary revelation that just took place this afternoon.
Then
My colleagues and I found out, all of us Republicans, by the way, that we were placed under investigation by this FBI, under the Joe Biden FBI that was led, I presume, by Jack Smith and his predecessors. This isn't the first time that it's happened, though. Senator Johnson just mentioned this. I served on the Trump transition team in Trump Tower in 2016. Senator Blackburn was vice chair of the transition committee then, as were probably a dozen.
Enough. Julie, I'm outraged. I have grave concerns. This should shock the American people. The FBI has spied on us. By the way, it's not the first time. Okay, stop right there.
Right.
Think about what you're saying. They've done it before. They keep doing it. In fact, John Brennan's CIA under Obama spied on Dianne Feinstein and Democrats in the Senate, too. These guys keep doing this, and I don't know how many more committee hearings it's going to take before they stop. Stop doing that to us. They keep doing it. Hey, I've got an idea. How about you arrest them and put them in jail? Because the rest of us here in the real world, when we break the law, we get arrested, and that stops us from breaking the law.
Right, and meanwhile, let's examine how they treat Kash Patel. When he goes up on Capitol Hill, he is the reason, Kash Patel is the reason we know about this, and the reason they hate him so much is because he is the only one who wants to bring a stop to this. Kash gets treated like crap, and he doesn't necessarily always have the full support of Republicans. It's maddening.
Yeah, well, listen, the Senate can't arrest anyone, obviously. All they can do is a press conference and sound like what you just heard and then have a hearing, I guess. But, you know, I've been alive long enough to see senators and congressmen screaming and demanding from the Justice Department that they do something about it. And by the way, here's Pam Bondi, are you listening? And I know people in the FBI listen as well. Y'all, good morning. Good to see you. It's 5:52. Can I just say something real fast? No matter what you do, Pam Bondi's Justice Department, no matter what you do, Kash Patel's FBI, no matter what you do, they're going to call you authoritarian. They're going to call you fascist. They're going to say that you're just doing Trump's bidding. They're going to say that you're not acting in a constitutional manner. No matter what you do.
No matter what you do.
That's what they're going to say. So I've got an idea. You found out that FBI agents were directed to spy on Republican senators to help their witch hunt on January 6th. Arrest them. Arrest them. And if those, guess what? In the document that was released that showed that this had happened, the names of the FBI agents involved were redacted. Why? Why? There's an FBI agent currently wearing the badge and currently carrying a gun, currently empowered to investigate people in this town who thought it was just fine to spy on sitting Republican senators. And they didn't push back on it, and they went ahead with it. And I bet you if you arrest them and charge them with something, they may immediately say, oh, wait a minute, it wasn't me. I'll tell you exactly who it was that did all of this. Do you know how I know? Because that's what Jim Comey would do. Hey, Pam Bondi, Justice Department, just do what Jim Comey would do, and then they'll stop doing this. It's 5:53.